Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're watching this. So welcome to our class today. Last week we talked about the Yoga Sutras outlining the idea that in postures, the two most important qualities are stability and ease or comfort. And I want to break down comfort or ease a little bit more this week and see what that might mean. Because sometimes you might not be comfortable doing yoga. Things might feel uncomfortable or even painful for you. Does that mean you're doing something wrong? Maybe, but possibly not. My best advice, if something is painful, to back off. Or check with your doctor if you're not sure. But all things being equal, occasionally we have or maybe quite often actually, issues that prevent us from moving freely or moving with ease or moving with comfort. For instance, arthritis. So if there's arthritis and you move your joints, it's going to hurt probably, maybe not always, but often. But that doesn't mean we get to just sit around and do nothing, because it actually gets worse. So the way to lubricate a joint is through movement. And when we keep a joint still and we don't use it, then it gets dried and more uncomfortable. So what is this concept of ease or comfort, and how do we find our way to it, but not ignoring what's actually going on with us? So when I'm guiding trips, I talk about three zones: the comfort zone, the growth zone, and the stress or panic zone. And we can relate this to yoga as well. So comfort zone is when everything is good. For many people, being in Shavasana is comfortable. Not everyone. It could be very uncomfortable for some to lie still, either physically uncomfortable or emotionally uncomfortable. But for many people, Shavasana would be right there in the comfort zone. Really easy, really comfortable, feels good. And then some amount of movement may feel really good. And then as we stretch or work on strengthening, there may be a little discomfort that comes in. And that little bit of discomfort, if we kind of look at it as shades of gray, we go from white to black, comfortable to uncomfortable, or even pain at black. And as we go into that light gray zone where things are a little bit less comfortable, can we stay relaxed? Can we still breathe? Can we, more importantly, stay mentally in tune with the sensations, or do we kind of check out and just go through the motions and numb out? And the fact is, we can't numb our pain without numbing our joy, without numbing our happiness, without numbing the things that make life precious and wonderful when we start to work on trying to numb our pain. And so the practice of yoga can teach us to tolerate little bits of discomfort. When it becomes darker gray, really uncomfortable or painful, definitely you want to back off. Or if you feel yourself tensing up, definitely back off. So we want to stay in that nice relaxed zone. If there is a little bit of discomfort, maybe stretching, we don't want to go to that far end of our stretch and our range of motion, because that's not good for our joints. We used to do that in yoga, and we've learned, those of us who have learned, that going as far as you can into your range of motion doesn't have any therapeutic benefits. Having enough flexibility to move your body is where it's at, not going, we don't need to put our foot behind our head to be flexible and to have flow and to feel ease in the body. So today, a little bit of discomfort if it's there for you. If it's not, great. We're going to work on back bends and twists, using the back to lift us, to strengthen the back, and twist to release any tension. So I'll see you on the mat. You can start lying down on your back today. And you may want to have your blocks and blanket handy. These are always optional tools, but you may want to have them handy, as I have mine here. And you can come to lie down on your mat, find as comfortable a position as you can. And then as you get as comfortable as you can, check in with where you are in that scale of gray. Are you more in the white? Are you really comfortable? Are you really relaxed here? Or are you more towards the black? Maybe it's uncomfortable for you. Perhaps if you're more towards the darker gray or black, you could adjust, bend your knees, straighten your legs, maybe move to a different position so that you're as comfortable as possible. So part of our practice is to recognize when we leave our comfort zone. So often we ignore our bodies until they scream at us. So can we tune into some of those more subtle aspects of sensation? Recognize also that sometimes it's difficult to feel sensation in the body. Sometimes we just feel numb from years of practicing being numb. So if you don't feel much, recognize that that's really normal too. So let's take a moment to see where we have sensation in the body. We'll do a bit of a body scan to start and check in. So notice your feet. And if you come to a part of your body that you don't have sensation, you could try moving it. Wiggle your toes, see what you feel once you bring some movement there. And notice how your feet feel. Is there any sensation you're aware of? And then check in with your ankles, your lower legs. So just a quick tour through the body and noticing, recognizing what is present today. Checking in with your thighs. And notice any sensations around the hips. And you can start to kind of maybe imagine these shades of gray through your body, areas that are more white or more gray, or maybe colors work better for you. You can associate colors. Or perhaps it's just straight up sensation. Check in around your low back. We're not trying to change anything. We're just paying attention and noticing. Check in with your abdomen. Notice what's present around the belly. Noticing around the chest. Shoulders. And really tuning into any sensation, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, whatever is present. Check in with your arms, your hands. Noticing your jaw, your face, head. So we'll be moving slowly today in some of the postures, trying to work out where that line is between comfort zone and a little growth. So we don't grow without being a little bit uncomfortable, right? The muscles don't stretch without a little discomfort. Mind you, that feeling of stretch for some people is, they would describe it as delicious and really a wonderful feeling, and others do not like the feeling of stretching. When we come into strength, as we hold poses a little longer, that discomfort of muscles fatiguing. Again, you may not find that uncomfortable, but these are the kinds of sensations we're going to explore today. So still lying down, you can bend your knees, bring your feet flat on the floor. Make sure you have some space behind your head, so we'll be raising the arms in that direction. You can start with your feet flat on the floor, arms down at your sides. And again, check in if you've moved to come to this position, where your comfort zone is. Maybe your whole life you're not ever quite in your comfort zone if there's some chronic pain or injury, recognizing that. And we're not dwelling on the discomfort today, but acknowledging it, giving it its space, recognizing it, and being aware. We'll also continue to come back to our comfort zone. So starting here, as comfortable as possible, recognizing that that may not be fully possible, we'll take the arms and lift them up and move slowly. And as you bring the arms overhead, at some point you will likely feel some restriction in the shoulders, perhaps before you touch the ground. If your shoulders are really open, you may come to the ground without feeling resistance. And when you feel that resistance, you'll reverse and come back down. So we're just exploring where is the first level of sort of the edge of my body saying, there's something going on there. So feel where that is for you, and then arms back down. It may be that you're comfortable going a little bit further as things warm up. And always really good to warm up through a comfortable range of motion. So we never start by just going to as far as we can and hanging out there. That used to kind of be more the way of stretching, and they've realized that's not really so great for us. So moving dynamically through a range of motion. Notice the shape of your spine, how it comes into maybe a little bit of back bend as you lift your arms. So we're going to start to work with one side, bringing the right knee in toward the chest as the arms come down. Just give a little squeeze in, feel your spine change shape a little, and then you'll extend that leg out as you reach the arms overhead. Breathe in, and then exhale, coming in. So this is the coordinating of the breath is optional. If that feels like a good pace for you, you can do that. And again, you might notice the shape of your spine changing. So everything we do with the shoulders and the hips has an impact on the spine. So notice how the hip feels, the shoulders, the low back. Good. And then bringing the knee to the chest. We'll stay here for a few breaths. Now, if you like, you could extend your left leg on the ground, keeping it active and engaged. And if you joined last week's class, you might remember we did a little series for the hips where we looked at flexion, we looked at adduction and abduction as 3 of the 6 movements of the hip. So right now, with the knee pulled into the chest on this right leg, we're working with flexion. So instead of working against gravity as we would when we're standing, we're now working with gravity. So the knee drops in toward the chest, maybe a little help from the hands to find that a little bit more passive flexion. And then we can play around with adduction, bringing the knee a little across the body. And then abduction, taking the knee away to the right. So you can try that a few times, going side to side. Good, and come back to the center. Okay, let's take that right foot to the floor. You can extend that leg out and let both legs relax for a moment. Let the arms relax. Maybe tune in and notice the sensations in your right hip and leg, and maybe how that might be different from the left hip and leg, if at all. So we'll work with the other side. You can start by bending your knees and bringing the feet to the floor. And you'll extend the arms overhead, breathing in. And then as you exhale, bring your left knee in towards your chest. Inhaling, extend the leg, bring the arms up. Again, the hands don't have to come to the floor. If your shoulders allow that with some ease, then fine. If not, you'll use the wisdom that you gained earlier on finding that space where your shoulders move freely. So again, you're noticing perhaps the shape changing in your spine. And then as you bring the knee in, you can stay for a few breaths. And again, option to extend the right leg on the ground, keeping it active. So again, this passive flexion in the left hip. And then we can work with adduction, coming across the body a little, and abduction, moving away from the body. So again, moving in a range of motion that feels comfortable. You feel some flow. If there is a little bit of discomfort, noticing that, and noticing, can you stay present? Can you stay aware? Can you stay relaxed? Even if it's a little uncomfortable. We're not trying to create discomfort. We're not pulling ourselves into discomfort, but recognizing what's there and working with it. Right, and then coming back to the center, and you can hold on for a couple of breaths. And then releasing the foot to the floor and stretching that leg out. And again, rest for a moment, tune in and notice what sensations are present. You can maybe imagine them on that gray scale if you like. Maybe it's super pleasant and comfortable, or perhaps for you there's some discomfort. So again, we're not looking for discomfort, we're not looking for pain, but we're acknowledging what's present without ignoring or pushing away or numbing out. And if you spent many years numbing yourself out, it may be difficult to find your way into sensation. So recognize that, be kind to yourself, and know that it's a really normal state of affairs that we would try to avoid pain and create a numbness in our system. So you're going to bend your knees, bring your feet to the floor. Have your heels more or less lined up under your knees and your hands down at your sides, and we'll work with a bridge pose. Again, warming up dynamically. So now this is extension for the spine, extension in the hip joints as well. And you can also take the arms overhead as we lift the hips. So we'll start by pressing down into the feet. And then as you inhale, lifting the hips and maybe also extending the arms over your head if that's a good position for you, and then coming back down. If you're coordinating breath, you'll exhale down, inhale up. It's also optional to leave the arms at your sides and work just with the hips, just with the extension of the spine, lifting the hips, opening the hip flexors in the front a little. Right. And then as you come down, we're going to come into the pose and stay for a few breaths. So here's where, when we hold the pose, it may be a little bit uncomfortable. So the legs have to work a bit, the buttocks have to work a bit, the lower back works to hold us in the pose. And maybe at first it's comfortable enough, and then as you hold it for a bit, that fatiguing of the muscles may feel like effort, which may or may not be uncomfortable for you. But we're going to move into that place of effort a little. Now, again, if you feel like you're tensing up and creating more tension in the body, then you're just going to come on down anytime. The arms a little away from the body, relaxed on the ground. You can lift up into bridge. You're either staying here with the arms relaxed on the ground, or you can bend the elbows and put a little pressure down to find a little more lift, or you might wiggle your shoulder blades in towards each other, either keeping the arms straight or bending the elbows. So find as much ease here in the effort of the pose. So if you start to feel yourself clamping up and bringing tension into your body in any way, then you've moved past the point where this is going to be really an effective pose for you. So you want to come down if you start to feel tension, and recognizing the difference between tension and effort. So in effort, we can still maintain that sense of ease. And as soon as we come into tension, we start gritting the teeth or becoming rigid in the body. Maybe the breath starts to get compromised. So for each person, where you start to feel yourself moving from ease or comfort into maybe a little bit of more effort, it's going to be a different place. So whenever you're ready, you can come on down, releasing to the ground. And when you get there, you can simply relax for a moment, or if it would feel good to you to give your low back and hips a little stretch, you can bring the knees in toward the chest and maybe move back and forth a few times to release the low back. And then another way to release those big muscles around the glutes and lower back after holding a bit of a back bend is to twist. So you can take the knees to one side and then back to center, knees to the other side, and back to center, starting with small movements. Again, we don't go straight to our end range of motion and go as far as we can right off the bat, but really tune in as we approach. Oh, there's some sensation. And then come out, going the other way. Go side to side a few more times. Noticing where you start to feel sensation. Does it stay easeful throughout, or is there a point where your body says, that's probably good enough for now? All right, when you do come back to the center, again, we'll bring the knees to the chest, bring one hand to each knee, and you can move forward and back a few times. Maybe hug the knees in, a little more length in the lower back, perhaps side to side. Good. So before we come to another position in a moment, we'll do 2 more movements for the hips here. So we've done flexion, adduction, abduction. We also did some extension on the leg that was straight. And then we'll work now with internal and external rotation. So starting with external rotation, we're going to let the knees come apart, the soles of the feet come together. So again, warm up little bit by little bit here, taking the knees apart and bringing them back together. If you want to coordinate your breathing, inhale apart, exhale together. If you like, you can stay for a few breaths. Here you might want some cushions or blocks under your knees. So we're not going to a place of clamping down and trying to hold the legs there so that there's not discomfort. Supporting the legs as you need. Blocks or blankets or cushions. Just a couple more breaths here. Good. And then bringing the knees together. Internal rotation is knees in, feet out. And this one we'll just relax for a moment, letting the knees support each other. You can let the hands rest on the ground or on your body. And we'll take a few breaths here. Right, so we'll keep on working with our back bends and twists, rolling over to one side and coming upright. We'll explore a little bit more movement for the spine in cat-cow. So we get flexion and extension. So you come to all fours, hands line up under the shoulders, knees line up under the hips. And as you inhale, letting the chest come forward, keep the elbows soft. Head lifts just in line with the spine, so it's not cranking back. And then rounding or maybe moving to child's pose as well on your exhale. So you're inhaling to this position, exhaling either here or here. If at any point you need to take a break, maybe for your wrists, you can come onto your forearms, do some movements for your wrists here. So we're going to put a little bit more weight into the wrists as we come into an extension. So you might remember on your back when we lifted the arms or stretched out a leg straight, we ended up in more of an extension or back bend. So we're going to do the same thing here, but now instead of having gravity working with us, we're working against gravity. So we're creating a little more strength in the back of the body. So what you'll do is one leg will lift, the opposite arm will lift. You're extending along that line as you breathe in, and then exhale either the cat or child's pose. And then you'll take the other pair of opposites, lifting and coming back. So you'll do that at your own pace a few more times. Works also for stabilizing and balancing. To practice stabilizing and balancing. Now, if you want to join me in working a little bit more here and finding where our edges are in terms of effort, you can lift your leg, opposite arm, extend along that line, and breathe. Your body will give you a message if it starts to get tense or you feel like you're compromising your breath or uncomfortable in a way that you can't relax in. Relaxing in the effort, you're going to come down. Whenever you're ready, you'll come down, maybe take a break for a breath or two. And then you can work with the other side. So if it's better for you to keep moving dynamically, by all means do. If you feel like you'd like to challenge yourself to find ease in the effort, and of course, releasing the pose if you cannot find ease in your effort, even if it's a little uncomfortable. If you can find ease, otherwise out of the pose. And then when you're ready, coming out, and again, you can either come to child's pose or you might enjoy doing a little more movement here, maybe circling the hips now. Right, and then coming back to center. So if your wrists will allow, you can come to plank pose. And again, in plank pose, you want to work with finding ease in the effort. So it's again, it's a little more effortful posture. You can do it with your knees on the ground or just with your hands and feet on the ground. So from all fours, hands a little forward of the shoulders. So as you come forward, you want your hips, shoulders, and knees in a line, whether you're lifting the knees or having the knees on the ground. So find the version of this pose that you can be as relaxed in. And then when you're ready to come down, if your knees are off the ground, you're going to lower them down. And we're going to bend the elbows and roll the body easily, ideally easily to the ground. If it's not easy for you, find your way there in a way that works for you. So from here, you can bring the hands back so that the Elbows are tucked into your sides, hands on either side of your face. And bring your forehead to the ground. You want to press down into the lower body, the hips, the legs engaged. And then inhale, lift your chest and head. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, lift. Exhale, down. And again, you can bring your forehead right down if that's comfortable for you. Good. If you like, you can stay for a few breaths and experiment with finding ease in the effort. When things get a little more challenging, can you stay easeful, or do you need to come out of the pose? And there's not a right or wrong answer. It's not like you're a better person if you stay longer. It's really about listening to your body and finding what works best for you. So when you come down, you can either rest your head on your hands or bring your head to one side, whatever works for you. We'll bend the knees to about 90 degrees and take the legs side to side. So a little gentle twist to release the back after the effort of our baby cobra. So know that at any point, if you've had enough back bending, you can just come to all fours and go back to the movement we did before, all fours to child's pose or cat-cow. And if you want to keep working with back bends with me, we're going to stretch out one arm and leg, just as we did on all fours. So you're going to, again, engage through the legs, press down. And then as you lift your chest and head, you can either do as we did before, just lift straight up, or you can lift opposite arm and leg and then come down. And then other side and come down. So do a couple more each side. And again, option to stay for a couple of breaths on each side. Find the ease in the effort. And when you've had enough on that side, you'll lift the other side and try a few breaths there. Good. When you come down again, head on your hands or on the mat to one side. You can bend the knees and a little side to side. We have one more posture here in this position. Again, if you've had enough, if your body is saying no to moving forward here, you can always, again, back to all fours. So here, the option is to lift both legs, both arms. So you can do any of the versions we've already done. This one is more challenging. So as you're ready, you press down into the hips, slide the arms forward, lift the legs, and then slide back, come down. And again, you have the option to stay for a few breaths if you like. Checking in with that balance of effort and ease. When it becomes challenging, can you stay with that challenge without checking out? And when you've had enough, bring your body down, hands down. You can slide the hands back to lift up. So again, maybe cat-cow or all fours to child's pose, whatever would feel like a nice release. And for those of you who are wanting a little bit more at this point, you might also come into downward dog. Maybe stay for a couple of breaths walking on the spot. Maybe back to all fours. And maybe child's pose or any movement that would feel good here. Great. And then let's come back to sit on the heels. And if this is not comfortable for you, which it absolutely isn't for everyone, you know, your knees, ankles may not like it, you can be in this position to start out with. So either low kneeling or high kneeling. And if neither of these work for you, being on all fours and just continuing with all fours to child's pose or downward dog. So we'll go through a little series from here, taking a breath in and lifting up, finding a little bit of extension without pushing the hips forward. And then exhale, child's pose. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, maybe downward dog. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, high kneeling. And exhaling to come back to where you started. Inhale, lift. Find that little bit of back bend without pushing the hips forward. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, all fours. You could either go back to child's pose or to downward dog. Back to all fours. Good. And back to child's pose. Inhale, high kneeling. And exhale to release. So we'll step forward this time for a version of warrior pose. So if you want to use blocks under your hands to help you, by all means do. So we'll come up again. Again, without pushing the hips forward, find a little extension for the spine. Exhaling, child's pose. Inhaling, all fours. Exhale, downward dog. I'm going to step the left foot forward. And you can step the right foot a little forward and turn the foot to the side so that you've got a nice stable place to be here. We'll lift up into warrior one and lower the arms out in front. So with your left foot forward, we're going to take the right arm, swing it down, and you can open your hips and shoulders. As you come around, the palm will turn forward, so both hands are pointing the same way. Check down that your left knee is still pointing forward, so a kind of version of warrior two. And if you need to, you can adjust the position of your back foot so that you're comfortable. And then as the arm comes down, we're going to rotate in so the palm turns back to face the other hand. And again, adjust your feet as you need to. As we go the other way, we're going to drop the left arm. We're going to keep that hand facing to the right, drawing back, and you can start to come into a bit of a twist. So now your left hand is pointing to the right, your right hand is pointing to the left. Good, swing back. And again, as we open to the right, the arm is rotating externally. The back arm, your right arm. And then as you come forward, it's going to face the other palm. As you go back with the left arm, it's an internal rotation going back, so the palm doesn't turn, the arm doesn't turn. And that just keeps the shoulders in a good position as you go side to side. Good, you can hold the twist for a few breaths. So reaching the arms out, squeezing the upper thighs towards each other and keeping the upper body as upright as possible so you're not leaning one way or the other. Good, coming back, reaching up. As you exhale, you can bring the hands down, either step to downward dog or step forward to switch sides, doesn't matter. And then you'll inhale, lift up. Exhale, arms down. And we'll go to the left first this time. So as the left arm comes down, you're opening the hand right from the shoulder, extending into a version of warrior two. Bringing it back to the front. So we're making the twist without leverage. We're not pushing against anything to twist. This arm, this thumb stays down, turn back as you twist. So thumbs stay up in the open, warrior two side. It's an internal rotation as you go back, palm faces away, thumb down. As you go to the left, you want to make sure your right knee stays pointing forward. And again, you can stay for a few breaths in the twist. So reaching out with the arms, you're not leaning forward here, trying to keep the upper body up. You can move your front leg straighter if that helps. You're squeezing the upper thighs towards each other. Good, coming back around, lift up. Good, exhale, bring your hands down. We'll step back to downward dog. From downward dog, release to all fours. Inhaling, if you are coordinating your breath, exhale, child's pose. And let's come back up to all fours, inhaling. Exhale, child's pose. Do that a few times. If you like, you can rest a few breaths in child's pose, either with your knees together, or you can lift up and draw your knees apart, coming down into what you can call frog pose rather than child's pose, similar but with the knees apart. And stay there for a few breaths as you're comfortable. Again, recognizing some discomfort is about growth, some discomfort could be avoided, really. That discomfort that's painful, that you tense up against. And really recognizing when to move into that discomfort a little, when to pull back from that discomfort a little. And my advice always is, if you're not sure, back off. Good. When you're ready, if you've taken the knees apart, you can bring them back in together. Good. And then from child's pose, we'll finish that round by lifting all the way up again and coming back to where you started. So we're going to come to sit now. And you might appreciate a blanket or a cushion just under your hips so that you've just got a little bit of a lift and a way of bringing the hips into a more natural or aligned position when you're sitting. So if you sit right at the edge of your blanket, it allows the pelvis to kind of tip a little bit forward, and it tends to be a little bit easier to sit without effort. In that natural position where the lower back is a little bit concave rather than rounded the way we might often sit. So we're going to work with a seated twist, and here we have the opportunity for leverage, but we're going to really try to use our core to create the twist, not using our muscles to pull us into the twist. So we're going to take one leg. You can, it doesn't matter which. You know, bring one knee in, and if it's possible, you can step it over the other leg. If you start to twist your body in a funny way or lift one sit bone to do that, just keep it on the inside. So you can use your hands to help support a lift through the body, so you're really nice and long through the spine, and then let go with your hands, but try not to let go of the position. Feel the effort that's required to be here. And then you can bring your hands back, just so we're really clear about how much we're working and how much it's the hands holding us here. So we're going to turn towards the leg, and you can bring the right hand, or the back hand, I guess, not in your case, it could be a different hand, behind you. Use it to lengthen up towards the ceiling and find that little bit of a twist. And again, check in. Could I let go with both hands and still be in this twist? And if so, great. Come back to the twist. Stay here for a few breaths. And again, without pulling yourself further into the twist, just using your hands to help you to stay in the position where you got to naturally on your own without leverage. You can turn to look over your back shoulder if you like. Keep lifting the spine tall. And when you're ready to release, hold everything as it is. Lift your hands and come around to the front slowly and release that leg. And then you can just give the legs a little shake and bring the other knee in, cross it over. So this is a little bit of adduction, right? Bringing the knee across the body as we did a little earlier. So again, hands on the knee, using that to help to lift you, but checking in that you can stay in that position even though it's a little more effort without holding on. And then from there, you can bring the back hand. So you're turning towards your leg. So the opposite hand is to leg, other hand on the ground. Use that hand to lift you tall. And then check in. Could I stay in this twist without leverage? And if the answer is yes, then come back into the position. And just use the hands on the ground, hand on the leg to help support you. But it's not, you're not pulling and cranking yourself into the twist. Good. And if you found that you kind of untwisted as you let go, you know you were using some leverage, so you might back off a little bit. You can look over your back shoulder. Good. And then release by lifting the hands, holding that position, and then slowly returning to center. And stretch both legs out, give them a little shake. And then we'll bring both knees up. And you can hold your knees or your ankles. We'll let the knees come apart, taking a breath in. Actually, if you bring your hands to your knees, squeezing the knees in, rounding the back a little. And then hands can come down, lifting the chest. And then coming in. So here, if it feels good for you, you can stay with the knees apart. Your blocks might be handy to support your knees. And if you find that you're really kind of getting pushed back by this position, you can use your hands behind you to help support a little bit of a lift in the spine. And you want to make sure you're not going to your deepest stretch possible, but staying in that white or light gray zone. Nice easeful stretch. And for those who want, and it feels good to go a little further forward, you could let your body relax over your legs for a few breaths. So again, we're not trying to bring the head to the ground or anything like that. Definitely not trying to get to our end range of motion, but allowing things to soften and relax with your breath here. Letting go of the effort of the twist, the effort of the back bends, just allowing the body to release forward. If it's more comfortable, you can have your legs further in front of you rather than close to your body. So if this is a position that feels really good for you, you can stay for a few more breaths. When you're ready to come out, you'll lift up, bring the knees together. You can stretch the legs out. Maybe give them a little shake, a little release. And then as you're ready again, we'll come down to the ground. So when you come to the ground, you can bring your knees up in toward your chest. Any movement that would feel good here, circling, rocking. And then stretching the legs overhead. The arms can come to the sides or overhead, and then back into the chest. If you want to coordinate your breathing, inhale as you expand. Exhale as you draw in. And then any other movement that you might appreciate, that your body might enjoy, that may feel good before we come back to as comfortable a position as possible for Shavasana. So you'll take your time, do whatever you need to do. If you want to add more clothing, if it's cold where you are, like it is where I am, although right in front of this fire is quite warm, nice and cozy. So you can stay lying down and head into Shavasana. You might do a little check-in with yourself as you get settled. So how did it feel to pay attention to your comfort zone, maybe a little bit of discomfort? Were you able to find your way back to ease even in some discomfort, or did you find yourself having a lot of tension in your body when you started to pay attention that way? So we're not looking to judge or create any kind of um, expectations for ourselves, but really noticing, how was that? Am I able to find ease in the effort? Is it stressful? You're really checking in and noticing. And please don't use this as an opportunity to beat yourself up if that is your tendency. We're all on a journey. And awareness is more important than perfection. So let that go now. Let your body soften and sink down. If it's comfortable for you, you can tune into your breath. And have a feeling of letting go as you exhale. Let go of the effort of the practice. Let go of the deep attention that you've given yourself. Just let your body relax into the ground. Let your attention be soft, easeful. Just lightly touching the breath with your mind, or simply noticing how your body feels right now. Letting go as you sink down with each exhalation. Letting go of the idea that life could or should be 100% comfortable all of the time or easy, but that we practice bringing ease to the effort, to the challenges, to the discomfort, so that we might learn to tolerate a little bit more with ease. This doesn't mean we should tolerate abuse or that we should force our bodies in any way, but that we bring awareness and recognize, where is that comfort zone? Where am I growing a little in my discomfort? When am I panicking and bringing in stress? We want to avoid that. Exhale, soften your shoulders and neck and face. Feel your arms release. Jaw releasing. Exhale, sink down through the rib cage and start to feel your lower back and belly soften. Exhale, relax around the hips and pelvis. Feel your hips sink down. Soften through the thighs, through the knees. Calves, ankles, and feet all letting go. When we bring in our full experience, the good, the challenging, the uncomfortable, the joyful, the grounded, all of it, when we welcome all of that, rather than shutting down or pushing away our pain or discomfort, when we can stay present with it all, we come closer to an awareness of our own wholeness and our connection to all that is alive through that wholeness. And the chant I'll share with you today reminds us that we're whole already, that it's our separation from ourselves that creates this feeling of disconnection or being fragmented. So acknowledging and bringing in our full experience allows us to feel more whole. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. If you want to stay in Shavasana a little longer, just ignore the next instructions, or you can turn off the video. And if you're ready to get on with your day, you can start to bring in a little movement, deepen your breath, become aware of your surroundings. Gradually add movement. You can start with your extremities, fingers, toes, ankles, wrists, eventually moving into the shoulders and the hips and the spine, moving whatever way would feel good to you. Eventually rolling onto one side, you can pause there to slowly transition eventually back to sitting. And as you come back to sit or wherever you are at the moment, you might create the intention of noticing as you go through your life when things get a little uncomfortable, whether it's in a conversation with someone and you feel a bit uncomfortable or in some movement, recognizing that step out of your comfort zone, and can you find a way to relax there and bring it back to comfort and ease? Or maybe you need to leave the situation in order to come back to ease. Or perhaps it's just something you have to move through the discomfort of to get to the other side. So be aware of how your relationship with your comfort zone, your growth zone, impacts you in your daily life. Bring your palms together. Namaste. So have a great day, and I hope that whatever is uncomfortable for you today, you can find a way of finding ease in that effort and that discomfort, and that we can expand our capacity without overriding our natural instincts, right? So we can get stronger, we can expand our container for holding those challenging parts of our lives without numbing out or checking out. So I hope that's helpful. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you next week.